First off, congratulations on season four. The premiere was heartbreaking and such a powerful start. What can you tease about Jordan, and the season coming up?
Well, first of all, thank you. Uh, I think our goal at Superman and Lois is just to make people cry. I really got into this business because I love the sound of people crying. And in the end of the day, I think the team really achieved that. Uh, um, no, I think what's coming up for Jordan is him taking on a much more mature role in his life. In the first two episodes, not to spoil too much, you see him try to take on a much more mature role in the world. The ramifications emotionally and mentally of what ended up happening from that attempt, I think, end up shifting him as a person quite drastically. And I hope Jordan comes out of this a person that we can all appreciate in a new light, someone who's growing as he's continued to grow throughout this show. Uh, there's an old adage that you give someone too much power and it goes awry. Uh, you know, Caligula can come to mind sometimes if you really think about it, but I don't think that's necessarily the case with Jordan. I think he's someone that tries and at times also fails. Uh, and I think from those failures, he's always had a way of trying to become a better person.
Absolutely.
Sometimes slowly, but this time I think a little quicker.
Right. Um, because you brought on a little bit about it, we see him step more so into the hero role following the events of what happened in the premiere.
Right.
How did you find a balance of grieving son and trying to be the hero, or do you think there is a balance?
Okay. Well, uh, yeah, I think I don't know if it's necessarily something I have to balance, at least in my brain, right? In my brain, I think one fuels the other. The grief is a motivator that's larger than himself. And I think that's really something that Jordan was missing. Any hero needs a cause larger than themselves. And Jordan, for a long time, especially the end of season three, there, he got a little full of himself. I
Right.
remember the writers coming up to me, they're like, by the way, people are going to hate you for a while. I'm like, all right, well, I used to actually, believe it or not, I used to perform on the street in the subway, on the street and the subway. So I've had everything hurled at me that you could imagine. So I don't really care. It's all right. At
There you
least this
go.
time I'm getting paid better. Uh, no, I mean, look, uh, that the thing about grief and the thing about anger that comes from grief. It's that third stage, right? It's the third stage. I don't know. It's the second stage, isn't it? Uh, is that it can be a very powerful motivator to do good or to do bad. Grief can sometimes take the form of vengeance, and then all of a sudden the character kind of becomes consumed. But you don't see that with Jordan,
Yep.
and I can tell you why. In episode two, spoiler alert, everyone. He goes after Lex Luthor, but not to kill him, not to get revenge, as he could. He could kill the guy, but he doesn't. He goes after Lex Luthor to get his father's heart.
Yep.
So I think the grief is motivating him to become a hero rather than someone vengeful and hateful. Uh, and how to play that, I mean, it's so much fun. They really trusted me with a lot, and I thank them every day for it.
Absolutely. And because you brought up Lex, the biggest threat to not just the Kent family, but to Smallville is the return of Lex. And he's obviously been making these threats to Lois and the boys. What do you think this does to Jordan going further in the season, as Lex has already threatened him and his family more than once?
Yeah. I think those threats end up having indirect relationship with Jordan's mental state, mainly in the idea that Lois starts to feel more and more pressure, right? Can't
Right.
forget, Lois is still going through cancer at this
Yep.
time, right? We picked up right at the end of season three. Can you imagine she's going through chemotherapy, but now she has the weight of the world on her shoulders and also the weight of her two sons who are grieving the father, and one of them is a little out of control.
Yep.
Um, Jordan, on the other hand, doesn't have that support system in his mom that he normally would have. There comes a time, actually, and this is my little theory, right? I think that one is a child when they think their parents are everything, or parent. Um, when they think that those two people that birthed them and raised them, that they are the whole world, and that everything is defined by their framework. Being a teenager is stepping outside that framework and hating on it.
Right.
I mean, maybe not everybody, but I know I was. And I think Jordan does for sure. I think it's thinking your parents are nothing. And then I think the beautiful thing about stepping into adulthood is seeing your parents as people, flawed people, but people that hopefully love you very much. And ultimately, through their flaws, have been trying to make your life what it is. And I think that adult relationship definitely starts to come in more in season 4 with Jordan. He's flirted with it a couple times. Uh, and I think now that his father's gone, he has to start stepping into that role.
Absolutely. And you we are left with a little bit of um how I don't know how to word it, but the Kent family have their own like little piece of Clark still, with the hologram that they have of him. Um, how do you think, or do you think this is some sort of like, well, it will be some sort of comfort for Jordan to be know he can go to like the fortress and there he'll be, or do you think it'll have like a reverse effect? And
Uh, you know, I think it is a source of comfort in that there is some sort of source of advice, but it definitely doesn't ail his grieving. It's almost kind of this cruel thing where they take Clark's brain, scan it, and make it look so much like him. And I also think there's a really interesting prediction that I don't know if it's originally from the Siegel and Schuster comics with the Fortress of Solitude that they made, because nowadays people are speaking about a similar technology and they're asking if that's going to cheat death. But scanning your brain and putting it into a computer, it's almost like another clone wakes up as you, doesn't even know that it's something different, and continues your life. Uh, it's like if you were to scan your body and take every molecule and rearrange it back, ships of Theseus style, into someone else. Is that really you? Not only that, though, the hologram can't leave the confines of the Fortress of Solitude, and the hologram is not a complete picture
right.
of who the. So I almost think it's a little cruel that they did that. They could have just put it on the computer and
You
then
know,
went, "Hey, computer," like Star Trek style, and then the computer could have gone back in that like dull and sassy voice that the computer loves to do. It comes back. It's like, "No, you did not leave it here." By the way, I had a episode pitch that was thrown out, well, completely thrown out. I had two, actually. Now that the show is ending, I can solidly say these two things don't happen.
aw,
But hear me out here. I wanted, this was more season 2-ish,
okay.
maybe season 3. Jordan, trying to be suave with Sarah back when they were still together, goes, "Girl, I could fly you to a place where we could be alone." The idea is like, they're trying to do some frisky business,
Right.
and she has like her daughter, like, I'm sorry, the daughter. She has her sister and her mother at her home, and like I have people in mind besides her super hearing involved. I don't want anything to do with that. All right, so I fly her over to the fortress of, well, I don't think we're calling it the Fortress of Solitude anymore, but our fortress,
Right.
right? And I called it the Fortress of Neptune. Didn't stick. It should have. Fans, it's the Fortress of Neptune, all right? Because it's so cool,
It is.
right? It's in the ocean. Uh, they go there. They're sitting. He has like a whole little picnic blanket set up, like real romantic, suave as fuck. And then they're about to get a little frisky, and all of a sudden, "Jordan, what are you doing?" And then Grandma shows up. "Grandma, I thought I turned you off. What are you doing?" He's just trying to put on like a holographic Netflix and chill. All of a sudden, Space Grandma shows up. I mean, it completely wrecks the vibe. You can see why I'm not a writer on the show. The other one, just to fill you guys in here, uh, really not leave you wondering for something. So, do you know how like kids in like middle school and early high school, like where Jordan was, smack the top of door frames?
Yep.
it's like establishing some sort of dominance. Like we're like I did it all the time, right?
Of
And I'm
course.
not even a tall guy, but Jordan trying to act suave with Sarah. They're at school on a Saturday to return gym equipment, a la episode 108, and they're both at school. Jordan does it, forgets how strong he is, and then makes a perfect hand-shaped hole in the roof of the school. Then it's the C plot, right? Like they have something dramatic with Lois and Jonathan. They're crying, Bitsy and Michael are doing some beautiful work. Meanwhile, Indy and I are out there trying to learn how to caulk together a wall so that no one suspects that a superhero is here. Because how are you explaining that before
Right.
school gets in the next day? And eventually she has to call in her dad because he's the only one that knows about it. And it becomes this bonding moment between Jordan and Kyle and Sarah, where Sarah can really let her dad be the hero for once here, and also Jordan can get embarrassed. And I think it would be a funny beat. Again, you can see why I'm not a writer on this show. The writers on the show are extremely talented, though, and I hope to work with them again soon.
They are extremely talented, but I kind of want to now see the high five moment. That would have been hilarious.
I came up with that like season one, and I pitched it. I think it was somewhere in his brain, so Todd's brain. A couple of my ideas got into the show over time, just because the writers are just so unbelievably receptive on the show. It's not a normal thing, and they're very collaborative. So sometimes I'd throw in an idea and it would stick, and they were talented enough to weave it in so well.
Right.
Um, yeah, one of those was involving Jordan's costume. I could get into that if you'd like, but yeah,
Uh, because you are throwing out your story ideas, and they're amazing, by the way. Um, with season 4 being the final season, is there a storyline that you wished you got to explore for Jordan?
there is, there is. But I can't speak on it right now.
Okay,
Once the season is completed, I could talk about it
perfect.
because there were two branches. One if season five and etc. were to happen,
Hmm.
one if it wasn't. So obviously we went down the one that ended the show.
Right.
But there was another path that would have been pretty fun for Jordan. What can you say?
We'll just have to bring you back and talk to you about it after the show ends then.
All right, it sounds. I'll be right back here. Behind
Yeah.
the Did I come out from behind the curtains? Is that gonna
Yeah.
like as the intro, right? Like like you gotta put some music. Is there even like a yeah, there we go. There we go. Look, there he is. Oh, I did not okay, I'm breaking the place. We didn't see that.
All
Sorry.
right. Nothing happened.
I thought I was being goofy, silly. Little did I know. I'm destroying things in the London hotel.
Oh boy. Working with such an amazing cast, what have you learned from them that you will take on to your next projects?
Oh wow. Well, I I learned a lot from Dylan Walsh and Michael Cudlitz, especially. Uh, Michael Cudlitz, he's a really generous actor, and that he's an incredible talent and has a lot of skill, and he's willing to share any advice that if you ask him for it, which is insane to have as a resource. So I think from him, a lot of the things I learned is how to navigate a script, especially when you think a character wouldn't say something. And he taught me a lot of tricks for that. Um, Dylan Walsh really taught me just to believe in myself, which was something I really needed over the course of the show at times. And I think, the acting's only better when you're confident. Otherwise, it could be awkward. Bitsy taught me about punctuality and I think about how to be both professional but also silly and goofy without ever compromising one or the other. Tyler taught me about work ethic. That guy has the craziest work ethic of any actor I've seen. He would go to the gym for 2 hours every day, even after like a 14 or 15-hour day, including days where he had to do a lot of aerobics. So Tyler taught me work ethic, also huge diet, and like he's insane with that. Um, I think I think of the young cast, we all learned a lot from each other.
Right.
It's quite the quite the crew we had there. Me, Indy, Michael, even Jordan back in the day, Taylor. Um, and yeah, I would have to say those are the main lessons I took away from all of it. I mean, Emmanuel, I think, taught me a lot about what it means to be graceful, which I think as a man, it's not as I think as directly prudent, but I think there are so many incredible role models on the show. I speak about that often too because a lot of these shows, especially CW shows, are a younger cast, and ours was older. So we kind of got to have this beautiful mentorship um, that was really, really incredible. And I miss dearly, I saw them all recently, but it's weird growing up with people and then knowing you're never going to see them all in the same room again.
Absolutely. And honestly, I got to see you guys when you guys came to Paley Fest for the first go. And I just spoke to Michael recently in an interview, and the dynamic that you guys had from just the beginning at Paley Fest was something truly extraordinary to witness. Your guys' chemistry and vibe with each other was phenomenal. Like I left the center and I was just like really excited for the show and everything that you guys were bringing. And you guys have not let us down at all with each
Well,
episode, each season. It's been amazing.
thank you very much. I do believe when it was Paley Fest, at least, we were still working with Jordan, but both of them are incredible. And you're right, like they are both incredible scene partners. And I was very lucky to have a lot of chemistry with both of them. We all were. When it came to Michael, it was, I wouldn't say forced, but he came on a week before we started filming season three.
Right.
So we kind of did a brothers boot camp where we hung out pretty much nonstop. He lived at my house, um, and we just did not spend a second away from each other. In part because I really wanted him to feel welcome. I introduced him to every single department, which I don't know if he loved or hated, but it's okay. I think it's important to know everyone from the accountants to the construction mill to the producers.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I really just wanted him to feel welcome on this new set. I couldn't imagine how daunting that is for him, and I respect the hell out of him for it, coming on and doing the phenomenal job he did. Um, so again, David Rappaport did that magic as well. I have to say, the casting director. I was at his house the other day, and I was just telling him I'm not only grateful, obviously, for the opportunity he gave me, and not even just for the talent of the actors, but also the way that he crafted the off-screen vibes. It was truly a great group of human beings that all deserved each other because they were that great.
Of course. Um, and it's such a somber time, obviously, as you mentioned, not being able to be around the cast now because it's over and you guys are going different ways. What is a message that you hope audience members take away from Superman and Lois?
I hope they can take away the power of family and friendship. No, look, I actually mean it though. It sounds corny. Today, we don't talk to each other anymore. We are so eager to excommunicate members of our own family uh, for anything from political views to just their way of life.
Right.
And I find that scary. And I think that leads to extremism in a lot of ways. I think Superman and Lois is a great example of how that could not be the case, how a bunch of people can come together with love and really overcome the obstacles in their life. I think if we start talking to each other again and start loving one another again, even just within our own families, this country and the world at large will look a lot safer and a lot less scary for all of us. So
Absolutely.
I'm very proud to be on a show that set such a good example.
Absolutely. Okay, what's next on the horizon for you? What can fans be expecting to see from you next, and where can they keep up to date?
Okay. Can't talk about too much. Can't talk about too much. But should be seeing me around.
Perfect.
Hey, with new hair and everything.
You look great, by the way, with the
Thank you.
hair.
By the way, so do you.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, yeah, knew it. Actually, the crazy thing, I went to, it's like the celebrity stylist, not stylist, hairstylist, Sally Hirschberger. This guy Danny did it. Great. I think Danny Hernandez was his name. Great guy, great hairstylist. But I didn't realize that keratin meant that it would be straight. I was like, keratin, stuff in your nails and your hair. Like, all right, whatever, we'll make it better. I don't know, whatever. Put all these chemicals in my hair. Because I told him to do whatever because he's so talented. It's like, do whatever. And then all of a sudden, like he put all these chemicals in my hair and it came out like really straight and long. I was like, whoa, what's going on? He goes, hey, I'll be like this for 6 months. Whoa. And then I forgot his name. I want to say his name was Steven. Cut it. And I really liked it. There was a second that I was in the parking lot on the way out of the place, and I saw my own shadow and thought it was someone else. Because I'm so used to being like the worst guy at the movie theater. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like I'm used to the giant fro,
Right.
and now it's a no. There's no fro, no fro. For me, my whole. Uh, can I say that? I don't think I can. This is a, this is a. It was for the sake of the rhyme. Uh, yeah.
And our last question for you is, what would you like to say to the fans and supporters of your work?
Uh, I would just like to say, first of all, a big thank you um, for supporting me. I hope that my dream coming true can be a source of light in your life through any work that I do. And also come meet me. Like if you ever see me on the street, I would love to meet you. Uh, I think anyone that is a supporter of mine certainly at least deserves my attention if I were to interact with you. Um, the whole thing is bizarre though, you know. They call it parasocial relationships. And I'm still getting used to it, but I do have to say I'm usually just met with a lot of gratitude when I think of it. Um, there's even this account that posts the same picture of my face every day. Believe it or not, they're on like day like almost 700 now. And it's crazy because at first I was thinking, this is just really strange. If not, I feel a little vain for maybe enjoying it more than I should have because I thought it was really funny. But then I see the comments, and all of a sudden, people are friends. People kind of met up on this page, and there's a whole conversation every time. And I realized that this account was kind of making people less lonely. And like I'm getting emotional thinking about it because it's so stupid. But the fact that I had any part in people finding each other and just being friends just makes me really happy because there were points in my life where that wasn't the case. So I hope my career continues just so that I can continue supporting you guys right back in any way I can.